Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are healthy and safe and well. We're back here with another video, and if you guys saw the title, you know what this is. But before we get started, if you are not already subscribed, pause the video and press subscribe down below. Along with that, hit the bell notifications link so you know when a new video is going live. Okay, so yes, we have our new special guest here with me who is eating, living her very best life. She's cluster feeding right now, so I'm not going to interrupt her schedule. We're just going to do things with her. So if you guys saw the last video, you saw that I posted my birth vlog. I wanted to come back today to do a birth Q&A because a lot of you guys had additional questions and just wanted me to kind of talk through some of the things that happened or just ask questions in general. So we put a box on Instagram for you guys to submit questions, and I'm going to just kind of pop off with them in any kind of order. So I didn't want to make this a story time. I really just wanted to be asking or answering you all's questions since we did so much talking in the birth vlog. I didn't want to be repetitive. So the girls are behind the camera and they're going through you all's questions, the millions of questions that we have, and they're just going to pop off and ask me, and we're just going to do it that way.
Is it a struggle to feel like yourself physically after giving birth, or is it a new norm?
I think it's both. I think it's a new norm because nowadays people talk about things a lot more, and I think the fact that we have so much access to additional information, it makes people feel less crazy. So it is normal to not feel like yourself physically after giving birth or mentally, and I think that it makes moms feel a lot more comfortable now because they know that they're not alone, which is why some people say that I overshare, and some people say that a lot of influencers overshare, but the reality is we're just trying to show people that they're not alone and that you're not crazy. Like, these feelings of the hormones surging and just feeling not like yourself or randomly upset or raging or overstimulation or all of that stuff is normal. And all moms feel it, moms and non-moms. But specifically with moms, where the weight of the world is on your shoulders and the amount of pressure that is on moms is like out of this world. I think a part of why I do what I do is to show people that, like, you're not alone. So it is normal to not feel like yourself. And it is normal to have to be intentional to do different things to get back to your old self or the new version of yourself, because that's kind of how it is.
How old were you when you had Zhuri?
I was and am 29 years old. My birthday is January 15th and I will be 30.
Did you receive an epidural?
I 100% received an epidural. I think I made it to 5 or 6 centimeters before I got the epidural. So I wanted to thug it out as long as I could, but I had every intention on getting the epidural just because of how things went last time, and just I was dehydrated and just weak, and I had just planned that I was just going to do that, and I did.
How was breastfeeding your second born this time around?
Well, we're only, 5 days in. Oh, hold on. Okay, it's right here, baby. We're great. See, she, just like Harper, latched right away. With Harper, she had a tongue tie. So that was something that we had to correct in the hospital before leaving. Zhuri did not, so she latched right away, and it wasn't as painful on my nipples. Harper was still eating, or she latched fine, but she was just struggling to get the milk out because of her tongue tie at first. So that first 24 hours, she kind of ripped my nipples to shreds, and it took a minute for me to get them back. This time, it's just the initial pain of relatching. So it doesn't hurt anymore. Just when she's clawing on there is the only time I feel it. After that, I don't feel anything, which is how you know the latch is a good latch. So it's going well so far. My milk took about 48 to 72 hours to come in, like 3 days. So my girl was like, she wasn't struggling, but you could tell she was like trying to call it in. So she was on my boob like 24/7. Yeah, now that it's in, she's chunking up and also sleeping a little bit longer periods of time because she's actually getting full.
What made you go for a VBAC?
Well, for one, I've always wanted to have a vaginal delivery. That's always been my intent. I want it to be my option how many kids I have, and to not have to be pressured into anything. So even with having a C-section that first time around, I knew that I wanted to try for a vaginal delivery because obviously the more surgeries you have, the harder it gets, and the harder the recovery is. So I knew I didn't want to intentionally or plan for a second C-section. I always wanted to try a VBAC. Now, when it comes to my life, God always has, you know, his own set of plans. So I have my plans and I work towards, you know, what I believe I want to do and pray that his will, it's in his will. But in the back of my head, I did, you know, kind of mentally prepare, like if things went left, I would have to have another C-section. But I knew what I wanted. So I planned, but I also was going to be somewhat flexible.
Are you co-sleeping with new baby?
No. Just like with Harper, as soon as they get home, I mean, we take contact naps, or we have contact naps, but they're in a bassinet or snoo right away. And we didn't know if Zhuri was going to like the snoo, so we were prepared to kind of figure something out when she got here, because every baby is different. Harper loved the snoo right away, but we just didn't know with Zoo. But she does, so great success. So she's been sleeping in there, but obviously I hold her a lot and she naps on my chest, so we do that too, just at night, no.
Did you use a birth doula with your second birth?
Yes. So I have my same doula, but my doula was due 2 weeks before me. So we worked together all the way up until then, and I was just like, don't even worry about having to be here, because we didn't know if she was going to be late, I was going to be early, or just the timing of anything. So I told her to prepare to stay home because we're educated enough to know our rights and things in the hospital. We know how things should go. And we also knew that she, my midwife, all of my birth team, pelvic floor therapist, everybody, were only a call away. And even with everyone else on my birth team or people that I worked with preparing for birth, they all were kind of prepared to come in if I needed them, because they know my doula as well. And they were like, I know she's going to be out, so if you need me to come while you're in labor, come to the hospital, I can do that. So we had a lot of help and a lot of options, but being that we've intentionally educated ourselves on birth and all of its different facets, and you know what's available to us and what we can and can't do, what are our rights, you know, all of that, we knew that we were fine.
What postpartum underwear do you recommend?
Free to mom. Free to baby? Free to mom.
Free to mom.
Free to mom. That's what I have on right now. They stretch for the big booty girls and are still comfortable. I've tried a few pair and they just are not made for us. But Free to Moms are great. They don't have a pad in them, so you have to buy pads separately. But they do have the ice pack pads and a bunch of different options. But I kind of like having separate, not all in one, if that makes sense.
When did you introduce a pacifier to baby since she is breastfeeding?
We always do right away. It's taken her a couple days to like it, but I guess now that we're on day 5, she's actually starting to enjoy it. A lot of people say that like babies get nipple confusion and stuff if you're breastfeeding, but our babies haven't, and they love their passies. Harper is 18 months and still uses her passy, and we're gonna kind of let her decide when she wants to be done with it, instead of taking it away from her. Also because we knew she was getting a sibling, so we didn't want to have any additional transitions for her.
Did you have to get any stitches this do?
No, I didn't. I'm so proud of this, because I thought, so when you're getting an epidural, it's very easy to like feel like you're not really pushing. So a lot of people overstrain and overdo things because they feel like I need to put in extra effort to push this baby out, because they're not really feeling what the work that they're actually doing. And being that I knew that, I kind of went into it. This was also a large reason why I wanted to make sure the room was calm and zen, and like I was intentionally thinking about what I was thinking about, and intentionally reminding myself of the things that I wanted to remind myself of when in the heat of the moment, because I didn't want to lose track and be like, ugh, you know, and strain and end up tearing when I didn't have to tear. Now there are times where it just happens. So I mean, sometimes it's inevitable and sometimes you can avoid it, but I made sure to tell the nurses that like I don't want to rush it. If she's not coming, we're going to be patient and wait on her to come. We're not going to force it. We're not going to do any straining. I told the nurses I didn't want to push for longer than a certain amount of time. If she's not out by this certain amount of time, we will stop and come back later, because she's obviously not ready. So yeah, no tearing. I had a few abrasions where they said like it's like a brush burn and that it may hurt when I pee, but when I did, it didn't. So I was very happy about that.
will you share your labor and delivery playlist?
I guess I can share it. A lot of people keep asking for it, but the thing is like, when you have a labor and delivery playlist, usually it's songs that speak to your heart specifically, and things that calm your spirit and calm your anxiety. So there are specific songs from my childhood till now that are specifically songs that have pierced my heart. So I will share it, but I will say that it's also very personal, and it also was something that was kind of between me and God. So while, you know, obviously it's just music, so I can share it, but I do think if you're going into it with, I want this to do what it needs to do in my heart, you should tailor it to you, and to what speaks to you and what music and sounds calm your spirit. So a lot of people have been asking for it, but I wanted to make sure to say that it is a very personal and intimate thing, and should be tailored personally to you.
Did you do anything specific to prepare for a VBAC?
Yes. So other than mentally preparing myself and researching, you know, the stats and what was possible, because the reality is, if you're trying for a VBAC, you do have the odds stacked against you, especially just with the entire healthcare system. There are doctors that try to convince people that it's not possible and that, you know, you're harming your baby or putting yourself at risk and, you know, in danger trying to have a VBAC, when that's really not the case at all. Like, the risk of uterine rupture, I think, is less than 1%. And don't quote me, but just like, they're very, 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 very minimal. And there are things that you can prepare your mind and your body to have a successful outcome. While I do think, because I think another question was, how did you convince your provider to let you have a VBAC? I don't have to convince anybody to let me do anything with my body. So I found a provider and someone who supported what I wanted to do for me. Of course, you know, you take their suggestions and take their professional advice, and then you get to decide what you want to move forward with and what you want to take on for yourself. Like my mom always said, eat the meat, throw out the bones. People can't tell you what to do. Like, you don't have to take anybody's advice. So I did the research. I found different ways that I could prepare myself, and I got a provider who was aligned with what I wanted for me. And that's why it was easy.
How was the birthing experience? Someone wants to know the whole process because she's scared of her next birthing experience after a C-section.
I don't think you should be scared. I think you should talk to your provider and, you know, see, you know, what their opinion is, based off of your specific situation and your body and how things went for you. But I do know it's possible. And I do know that there's a lot of false information going around about VBACs. You guys should also follow VBAC Facts on Instagram, I think. They share a lot of good studies and things that you can use in, you know, deciding. So I prepared mentally and physically. I did my research. Physically, right after having Harper, I knew that I wanted to have another baby, and I knew that I wanted my C-section scar to heal properly. So I went to a C-section recovery place here in Texas where they evaluate your scar. They did some massaging on it and basically making sure that the scar tissue did what it was supposed to do. And it's never too late to go. So you don't have to go right after having a baby. If you have a scar, you know, they'll assess it and figure out what needs to happen to make sure that it's good. Along with that, due to how my last birthing situation went, I invested in pelvic floor therapy, and I did that weekly from, I honestly probably should have started before I even got pregnant again, but I started right when we found out we were pregnant, so it was like right at 6 weeks or something, and was going weekly to do different workouts and exercises and things to basically prepare my body. I also got acupuncture, and acupuncture internal exams and things to basically work out your pelvic floor so that it's ready and your pelvis is doing what it needs to do, so that you can have that VBAC. I did that weekly early on, and I think that played a huge role in the outcome and success because my body was prepared.
How's Harper?
Harper is amazing. Honestly, she's doing so much better than I thought she would. I was just, you know, full of anxiety here. I was paranoid about her feeling left out and feeling pushed aside and just not being the only child anymore, but she has embraced Zoo. Like, this is her kid, this is her baby, and everybody else needs to back off. She checks on her all the time. She's so excited when she's around. I didn't know if it would start making her be a little standoffish or whatever, but my girl has embraced it. It's almost like she knew in her heart that she was about to be a big sister, and she prepared for it. So she tries to give her doll babies bottles and all this stuff, and it's the cutest thing ever. I get emotional every time I see it, and I'm like, pull it together. But she's been amazing. We are expecting her temperament to shift a little bit. It hasn't yet. But just, they always say, you know, with any transition, expect them to regress a little bit and to change up. So we're prepared for it. Maybe it won't happen. Maybe it'll happen in, you know, different ways. But that is something that, you know, we're kind of prepared for, and just going to move with the punches.
How's the recovery so far?
Recovery is amazing. Like, it's so different from a C-section recovery, or from my C-section recovery, because I'm going to try really hard not to blanket, because everyone's situation is so different. So my recovery last time, I was a lot more in pain afterwards. I just feel like I can honestly get back to life as regular. But obviously I can't, because I have a plate-sized wound on my insides. But I feel as though I can. So that's good. I've been moving around fine. I didn't have any tearing, so nothing really hurts down there. One thing I did not know, and that no mom has ever told me, was how hard it was to poop after a vaginal delivery. I did not have this problem with Harper, or after delivering Harper. But that, if anything, that's the thing that's been like the weirdest, is trying to figure out how to poop. And I've been taking the stool softeners, but I guess not enough. I've gone once since last Tuesday. That's a week ago. Pray for a push or something, I don't know. But if anything, that's the weirdest thing. Everything else, I really feel okay. I'm of course a little bit sleep deprived, just because I've been waking up every second. But it's not as bad as it was the first time around, because I think your first time around, you don't know if this is ever going to end or if it's ever going to change. I think because we have Harper and we're not first time parents, it's like, I know this is rough right now, but I know it's going to get better. So it's easier to cope with, should I say.
That was the last question, but I have a question that they asked, well, not asked, but Courtney touched on in the birth vlog about your placenta.
Oh, my placenta. So I got my placenta encapsulated. How did I find someone to do it? Because I'm sure that'll be the next question. I asked my doula for recommendations, but also researched like DFW placenta encapsulation, or like whatever. And that's usually how I find all of my providers. So yes, I got it encapsulated for reasons as though it just kind of helps with the whole postpartum situation, the hormones, kind of replacing some of those things that your body is missing after delivering. And anything that helps with postpartum depression, anxiety, any of it, I'm willing to try it, just because I know how intense it could get. Hello, you gave me a smile. Oh my goodness, I love you so much.
What contributed to your peace and zen?
I think planning ahead of time everything I wanted. So I am big on having a birth plan. Caveat, having a birth plan, but also being flexible. But there are certain things that you may not be able to articulate once those contractions start. So for one, anybody who I know is going to be around during any part of labor, we have conversations about how I want that to go. Do I want there to be conversation going on around me and everyone else kind of just ignoring and tuning me out? Or do I want everyone kind of quiet and just as focused as me? What kind of music do you want to be played? What type of conversation do you want to be having? You know, do you want everyone else to be quiet and praying? Or do you want music to be going on? You know, just the tiny things that you think don't matter. And wherever your mind is in labor is where your body follows. So if you're tense and all over the place and doing things, it affects how long you'll be in labor. It affects how hard those contractions are. I listened to Christian hypnobirthing my entire pregnancy, and also while in labor, along with my birth playlist, just to get my mind where it should be, and just reciting scripture, and you know, almost as if I was in a spa, because the more relaxed my body was, the less intense the contractions were. So intentionally creating that playlist of, you know, my favorite worship songs, and you know, making sure everyone else was on the same page means a lot. I also had conversations with the nurses as I got someone new on shift, like, this is how I want things to go. I'm not sure if the nurse before you told you, so we're going to have this conversation too. You know, I want it quiet. I don't want a bunch of people screaming, push, push, push. I don't want, you know, you all to be in a bunch of conversation. Obviously, if something is urgent, you know, you say it, but just frivolous things. So even when they came in the room, they were like, whoa, what type of situation is going on in here? Because everyone was peaceful and quiet and basically only spoke when it was something that, you know, would either lift the spirits or, you know, was necessary. So I think having those conversations with whoever you want to be around will help, so then everyone knows how they can support you and be there for you. And then just having a birth plan, just how you want things to go. You know, how do you want people to touch you and help you, you know, through contractions, or do you want everyone to leave you alone and not touch you at all? Those are all conversations that Corey and I had prior to having Harper and with Zhuri. So he was like, are we going the same vibe? Do you want me to kind of back off and just be there? Or do you want me to be caressing you and touching you and doing all the things? That matters, because one thing could just throw you off, because being in labor is like running a race, and the slightest thing can take you off track. So that was important for me.
Did you feel more prepared this time?
I did, and I think it was only because it wasn't my first time. So I felt prepared last time, while also knowing that things could go differently. But I think this time I was like, okay, now that happened, how can I plan for this? Now that this happened, how can I plan for this? Because last time I had no idea that my contractions could make me so nauseous to where I throw up with every contraction. So now this time I wanted to be in the hospital, and they were like, do you want an IV or do you want to wait and see if you need it? And I was like, give me the IV, because I know what happened last time. So it just gave me different ways to prepare, but I guess I can say I felt more prepared this time.
What would you suggest for a first-time mom to help prep for delivery?
Like I said, have a birth plan. Know what you want, but also be open to things changing. I think a lot of the reason why I have not to this date, last time or this time, had a traumatic birth is because, one, I knew my rights. Two, I binged watched different birth vlogs and birthing documentaries and things, because I know the way my anxiety works. I need to consume a lot of information and see how many different ways things could go.
How did you cope with contractions?
Christian hypnobirthing, music, deep moan-like breathing, and just keeping my mind right. Trying not to tense my shoulders and my jaw and my eyebrows, because all of those things are correlated to your pelvic floor. So obviously with anything, you know how like our body, we brace whenever something's about to happen, making sure not to do that, because when you brace, it makes the contractions worse. So doing things to basically intentionally not. So when I was up and moving around, I was swaying and I was doing all the things to try to keep my body as loosey-goosey as possible, so that when the contractions came, because they're literally like waves and you can feel them going up and coming back down. So just making sure that I was like as loose as I could possibly be so that they passed better, and I wasn't making them worse than they had to be.
Are you planning on having any more kids?
We don't know. We're seeing. Of course, we want a big family, but just the way the world is right now is the only thing that's making us like, maybe we should only have 2 to make sure that we can actually protect them from what we can. So I don't know. We want a big family, but just the way that the world is, it's just making us second guess. So we don't know. Whatever the Lord has in store, we're open. Ooh, good job, baby. That was a good burp. Whatever the Lord has in store, we're open. But I did tell my husband that I would like a break. I would like a break to be outside and have my body back. Maybe get a new set of boobs. I don't know. I would like to live my life for a sec.
Have you ever hurt your baby with your nails?
I don't know why this is a thing. I really, really don't know why this is a thing. My nails are not even long. There are people with like, God, mommy, you pooped right when she walked in the room. Good girl.
Let me tell you why Corey's gonna give her a break. Corey's giving her a break because if they have 18 kids, they're building me a house right next door.
Do you think we wouldn't do that?
No, I know you would. That's scary.
Great nursing bras, motherhood, maternity. Barefoot Dreams robe, I think.
Cozier.
Oh, Cozy Earth. We'll link it.
Any tips for first-time moms?
Oh, okay, so maybe the same thing. I would just say have a birth plan, but also prepare to be flexible. Watch birth vlogs and get comfortable with birth. You need to be able to see it and not be scared of it, because fear is the biggest pain culprit in birth. You need to be not afraid of birth, because fear is why people be in pain the most, because their bodies, their bodies respond to that fear that it feels. So you need to get comfortable with it. So I like to send my friends all the videos on all the beautiful births that I see and stuff, and they get freaked out. But now everyone's like, oh yeah, look at that. So, you know, it worked. But yeah, and also just, I feel like watching a lot of different births kind of showed me all of the million different ways things could go and how to navigate, or how those families navigated them. So even just in terms of like, oh, I heard this in that vlog, like nurse says something or doctor says something, I heard this in that vlog and this is how they responded, or this is what that meant, or when they were talking about this is what they really meant. Different things like that matter, because the more prepared you are, just the better you know how to navigate things. And just knowing that everyone's birth is so different gives you the comfort when things happen in your birth and you're like, oh, well, no one's is cookie cutter, you know what I mean? So it makes you feel more okay. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A. If you have additional questions, leave them down in the comments below. If we have enough, we'll do a part 2. These were the questions that we got asked the most. There were so many other ones, but these are the ones that kept coming up, so we wanted to answer those. Let me know if you guys liked the birth vlog. We really recorded what we could while still maintaining the atmosphere and the birth experience that I wanted. So I know things were a bit dark, and I know things, you know, may not have been the angles and such that you want, or that you would have enjoyed, but at the same time we still had to maintain, and we were still bringing new life into this world, and we wanted God's presence to still be there, and not a lot of lights and cameras and actions, but still sharing the experience with you all, because I wanted to ensure to do that again. But anyways, if you guys are not already subscribed, make sure you are. Make sure you're following on Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all that good stuff. I love you guys. Peace out.